Good afternoon, everybody. My name's James Osborne. I'm the CEO of the Elite Recruitment Network. The Elite Recruitment Network have enabled hundreds of recruitment organizations maintain a significant competitive edge in the marketplace and outperform their competition. So we're quite proud of that. I want to give you a quick case study, an example of an organization that we've been working with, one of our newer members to the club. It's a niche recruitment organization based in London. We've been working with them now for about 6 months, and we've seen their sales increase over the last 6 months by about 30%. Now, the market has obviously been a factor with that, but we like to think the nutrients that we've been providing them have enabled them to actually grow significantly, which is great. And one of the things that we've done with this organization, which has been quite fun actually, is that we've enabled them to turn, I suppose, the art of selling into a bit more of a science, the science of selling, which is why I want to explain to you today about some of the methods and technologies and ideas that we've implemented with this company to help them do that. And hopefully there's a couple of ideas that you might take away. I'm going to try and keep this a little bit interactive, if that's okay. I'm a trainer by background, so I'm going to get you to be doing some stuff rather than just looking at me as you're currently doing at the moment. So one of the first questions that we asked them when we sort of kicked off working with these guys is how many customers do you actually need in your business today? How many customers do you really need in order to achieve your strategic objectives, whether that be an exit strategy or just the growth? So we took them through a bit of a process. Let's imagine some scenarios here. Imagine their target that they were trying to achieve was a net fee income of around £2 million. So if we look at that, let's take some presumptions. Let's presume that their contract to perm split, their ratio was 50-50. And let's presume that their average contract fee was around about 18K. And their average perm fee was around about 10K. Hopefully some of you guys will have similar sort of numbers to that. So based on that, how many contractors out would they actually need in order to achieve their objectives and their goals? So if we look at the numbers, that equates to around about 56 contractors out in the marketplace to achieve that £2 million net fee income. And also about 100 perm placements in total. So they've got a couple of options. They could potentially go out and find one client and go and bring in 56 contractors with that one particular client. But obviously there's a risk with doing that. If they lose that client, then they lose the majority of their business. On the flip side, what they could do is go out and find 56 clients and bring in one contract with each of those 56 clients. But that will clearly demonstrate an inability to build effective, tangible, solid relationships, which is not good for the business. So a third option we looked at was actually trying to map out the types of client base they would actually need in their business. So for example, and some of you I'm sure have heard this expression before, the A's, B's and C's within your client base. So if we look at that, they potentially could bring in 4 type A clients, clients that in essence they had 5 contractors out as a minimum. 8 type B clients with 3 contractors out, and then 12 type C clients with 1 contractor out. That in total will give them a need, a requirement to find 24 clients. That's all. Just 24 clients they'll need to get and bring on board and actively service and work with. And within those clients, those 24 clients, around about 4 placements, permanent placements per year will enable them to actually hit their net fee income of £2 million. The interesting thing is they were gunning after as much business as they possibly could get, and they were taking their eye off the ball of actually what they should be bringing in. So who are these customers in the first place? So if you look at it from a sales pipeline or a funnel perspective, we know we've got 24 at the bottom we need to close. So who today are those 24 customers that that company needs to be bringing on board? Who are the customers that you need to be bringing on board today, working with today, in order to guarantee through the funnel process you have at least 24 coming down the bottom? One thing we did do with these guys is try and whittle out, first of all, who they didn't want to have in their sales pipelines, in their sales funnels. So we took them through a bit of a process, which is what we call the Customer Value Index. And what we identified, first of all, is trying to take them through a process, especially with their consultants and their salespeople, of actually what is it that makes a customer valuable for your company and for your organization. And in this instance, we chose 7 different criteria that they deemed as significantly important that would make a company valuable to them. What I'd like you to do, to get this interactive going, if that's okay, I'd like you just to turn to the person next to you. I'd like you to identify 7 criteria that you think make a customer valuable to your business. It could be things such as the margins that you're on. It could be the volume and the potential business that they have. It could be the brand association that you want to hang out with, ease to work with, and so on and so forth. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Just turn to the person next to you. I'd like you to identify 7 criteria in total. I don't know what you wrote down. Every organization is different, so you're going to have different criteria. Some examples of the criteria would be ease to work with, maybe access to the hiring managers, maybe the potential growth opportunities. It could be brand association, it could be margins, and so on and so forth. Maybe even if the types of roles that they're recruiting for are the sorts of experience that you've got placing candidates in those type of roles. 7 criteria I want you to map out. Very quickly now, and you probably won't necessarily want to do this with the person next to you because I'm sure you don't trust each other, but I'd like you now to think of one customer that you've currently got, that you currently work with, and very, very crudely mark that customer out of 10 for each of that 7 criteria. So you end up with a total mark out of 70. I'm going to give you 1 minute for this only. One customer you currently work with, mark them out of 10 for each of that 7 criteria, so you have a total mark out of 70. Okay, now I don't know what marks you've given those customers, so I'm not going to ask you to feed that back. Well, once you've got a total mark out of 70, then what we do is we translate them back into what we call a customer vitality curve, which looks a little bit like this. Any customers that you may have written down who had a mark of 0 to 34, you put them in the bottom end of your spectrum. The 35s to 54 sit in the middle, and anybody who's 55 above is your priority customers, the ones that you salivate after and the ones that you should be prioritizing your efforts to go after as well. Okay, now I'm going to give you, at the end of this presentation today, I'm going to send you some tools to be able to actually actively do this with your staff when you get back into the office. But make sure your staff are focusing on valuable business as opposed to any business, which is what can tend to happen in my experience. Now the challenge you have, though, is that if you just spend all your time focusing on this 55 to 70 type customers, these priority customers, guess what else is going to happen? Everybody else, all your competition, are going to be doing exactly the same thing as well. So what that creates is a button that doesn't work. What that creates is an environment where all of your competition are shouting out to those same customers, buy from us, buy from us, buy from us, buy from us, which is what we're trying to avoid. Now, with this particular company I mentioned before, who saw that growth of 30%, what they then did, they got really excited about it. This is fantastic. We now know who our 24 customers are. We're going to go after them right now. Guys, let's get on the telephones and start banging the telephones. That was completely wrong, the wrong thing to do. And the reason behind that is, if you think about it, let's put ourselves in our customer's shoes. What does a customer actually see when they are looking at potentially utilizing a recruitment organization? Well, in the UK, there are 10,000 approximate recruitment companies in the UK currently today, obviously in different niches and different markets. There's a hell of a lot of recruitment organizations out there, 10,000 for that matter. What they're actually trying to find is a tangible shortlist of people, of recruitment companies they actually want to hang out with and start going through the negotiation process with. Out of that 10,000, they're looking for maybe 3. Okay? So, where it goes wrong with a lot of recruitment organizations, in fact, where it goes wrong with a lot of sales organizations, is where we try now to actively sell to our customers. We need, as an industry, to stop selling to our customers. Now, some of you are going to give me some quite funny stares when I even mention that. I'm not even in any way suggesting that you try and remove your sales culture within your business, but we have to stop selling to our customers. And the reason being is, it is our customers who will decide at what stage and when they will turn from a lead into revenue. It's our customers who will decide at what stage they will become a prospect and they will turn into an active customer as well. Okay, it's not us trying to tell them when to be able to do that. For a customer to be able to do that, there are 5 things they need to go through, 5 decision-making processes, or pivot points that we call them, that enable them to actually understand at what stage are they ready to now buy from you. And they will decide that, remember. Okay? I'm going to walk you through these 5 what we call decision points. The first one is awareness. They need to be exposed to your product or service. They need to, you need to actively engage and get your brand out into the right people in the right ways at the right time with the right messages on a consistent basis. The utilization of things like LinkedIn is a fantastic way, obviously, to be able to do that. They need to understand and know a little bit about who you are. It's a crowded market out there. They've got to be able to find you, number 1. Number 2 is understanding. They need to actually understand how your product or your service actually works, the core functionality behind that. The third stage of it is the justification piece, understanding the return on investment on your product or service. I was at a panel last year, and on the panel there were a number of heads of procurement from some banks in the UK and overseas. And the question I posed to the panel was, how do you, as a head of procurement, how do you currently measure the long-term return on investment that you get from the recruitment agencies that you use? And what do you think their answer was? We don't. We don't measure it. We don't understand how to do that. We focus on the initial upfront cost when someone places a candidate with us. That is crazy if you think about it. We're devaluing ourselves by doing that. As a recruitment organization, we need to be educating our customer base on the long-term return on investment when utilizing our staff and our services, not the short-term cost that you get from that. The fourth decision pivot point is evaluation, comparing your products and services with all the competition that's out there in the marketplace, the other 9,999 recruitment companies in the market. Seth Godin refers to this as the purple cow effect. The idea behind it, when you're driving around through the countryside and you see a field of cows, they all pretty much look the same. The one purple cow that sits among them will be the one that will stand out and take market share. So how are you differentiating your company and your brand in the marketplace when it's such a crowded marketplace in the first place? And the final component of it is decision point number 5, which is actually alignment, linking your product and service and what you currently do to your customers' pain points. Okay? The pain points are the issues, the problems, the challenges that they have. Are we selling to those pain points, or are we just selling generally? Okay, so with this organization I was talking about before, what we wanted to do was try and make the sales process a little bit more scientific. We wanted to be able to measure the return on investment they were getting from everything they were doing, all their sales activity and everything else that went with that. It's not just about KPIs and minimum standards. It's about pure return on investment for their efforts so they can prioritize what they're actually doing. So one of the things that we created, and we've done this for a number of recruitment organizations so far, is created a thing called a channel acquisition map. And a channel acquisition map, in essence, is a scientific system of creating sales, creating a sales environment for your business. So what I want to do, obviously I'm in the realms of LinkedIn today, so I'm going to use LinkedIn as an example, which I think probably, not just because they're here, I think probably is the best marketing channel that you could possibly use to enable sales to happen within your businesses. So I'm going to show you very quickly how this works. I'm going to send you all a copy, if you'd like one, of a channel acquisition map, what we call a CAM, so you can actually try it out and try and merge it into your business as well if you want to. So there are 4 stages. The first stage, aligning to our sales funnel process, starts at the top up here. And I'm going to use LinkedIn as my example up here. In this particular scenario here, we've identified a target LinkedIn group, whatever group that might be. Okay, so let's say it could be procurement people in Manchester. I don't really care what it might look like. And in that group, we've noticed there are 1,200 contacts or targets within that group. If we were to whittle and qualify that group down slightly, we've identified that actually out of that group, 25% are actually hiring managers, the people we actually want to hang out with. They're not our competitors, they're not other people trying to sell stuff to them. They're physical, targeted hiring managers we want to hang out with. The first thing we're going to do is get those 300 people to connect with us on LinkedIn straight away, okay? And if we presume we get an uptake of around about 60% because our LinkedIn profiles have been maxed out, then we should end up with about 180 targeted people we want to start hanging out with and working with. The other 1,020 I'm going to completely ignore. They're off my radar completely. I'm then going to start doing what I call touching people up. And I'm not a weird in any sort of way, but I'm going to start touching up my customers a little bit before we start doing any active selling to those customers. I'm going to take them through those decision pivot points 1 to 5. This may take me about 4 weeks. I'm not going to panic. I've got plenty of time. It might be a 4-week process. So I'm going to start making sure that they get awareness. That could be through some daily updates that I'm doing to that particular LinkedIn group. Good quality stuff. I'm adding value to them. I'm not trying to sell to them at this stage. A bit of understanding. That could be some articles about the way that we work and how our processes have impacted other organizations similar to theirs. I'm going to do some justification, maybe a white paper report. I'm going to do some evaluations, some case studies, some testimonials from my existing customer base of why we are better than our competitors out there in the marketplace to help them make those decisions. And then finally, I'm going to do some alignment. So I'm going to maybe run a survey or something similar to that to demonstrate that the issues that are prevalent to their business today, what we do can actually help them and fix some of those problems and issues that they've currently got. That's my first stage process. At this stage, I haven't spoken to anybody, and I do not want to speak to anybody at this stage whatsoever. Before I start talking to people, though, I need to do a little bit more qualification first of all. And I still believe, hand on heart, and I'll say this nice and openly honestly, I don't believe recruitment organizations generally qualify their customers anywhere near as much as they should do. Consequently, we end up wasting a lot of our own time, but we also end up wasting a lot of our customers' time as well. So we're going to go through a bit of a qualification process. Before anybody in that organization is allowed to pick up the telephone, they need to have answers to these questions. From an organizational point of view, they need to know the basic. What does the client do, their locations, their turnover, their financial year, their main customers, their company culture. They can get that information from candidates, from CVs, from their contacts, and from LinkedIn and places like that. The next thing they need to know is know a little bit about the department of which they're about to sell into. That could be things like that department's growth plans, maybe the technologies or upgrade plans that they potentially have. It could be the number of current contractors or existing projects that they're working towards. Once we know that information, we're then going to start getting a little bit more detailed and direct and focus on the person that we're actively going to be targeting within that company and within that department, the hiring manager within that department. So I want to know a little bit about that person, their position, their decision-making authority, what our current relationships are like with them, what our past relationships are like with them, and so on and so forth. Okay? At that stage, when I've got answers to every single one of these questions, and we've even got it set up on their database where they can't progress to the next stage of their sales funnel until they have these answers ticked off, can we start thinking about talking and interacting formally with our customer base? By the time we've done this, we've qualified them. Not only are we making sure they're the right customers we want to hang out with, but just as importantly, we've got a good amount of information to be able to talk to them about, which is important. It demonstrates what I call we've earned the right. So at this stage, we're going to start interacting with the customer a little bit more. I've now got 72 qualified contacts out of my list. What I'm now going to do in this particular company, we're going to do some reverse marketing. Some people send out sort of specking out CVs and things like that. I know the types of candidates they look for. I know the types of culture they look for because I've done my qualification process. I'm now going to be specking out and reverse marketing some classic example CVs that I think will match the caliber and the types of quality that they're potentially looking for. On the back of that, I'm going to try and arrange some meetings, which will ultimately end up with about 30 through the process. I then go out and have some meetings, maybe a telephone meeting, it could be a face-to-face meeting, whatever that might potentially be. And my process and my objective there is very simple. I'm going to deliver above and beyond my pitch. Okay? I'm going to make sure that the actual recruitment process that I deliver is going to wow them every single time. Overpromise, underpromise, and absolutely overdeliver every single time. Okay? The final stage of the process, which then maps down to the bottom, and that gives me some figures and some numbers to put to this as well, is the service piece. Once I've got that customer on board, I'm going to service the hell out of that customer. My focus is that customer is not a customer until they give me repeat business, until they give me a referral, until they give me a case study or testimonial. Then we're getting a good customer on board. So I'm going to service the hell out of that customer going forward. Okay? That's the simple process. If I look at it from a numbers point of view, I can almost equate now, it'd be different for every company, but I can almost equate now that a targeted LinkedIn group of 1,200 people, in essence, would equate to about £108,000 worth of potential revenue for my business. That's one particular channel that I have currently going on. In our organization, we have about 6 or 7 different channels running concurrently at any one time. And each of those channels, I can measure the return on investment from a time point of view, and actually I can really forecast of the potential return I'm going to get from a revenue perspective as well. So that's really important to me. Now, all these touches that we have with these customers, that's all well and good. But again, everybody in the room hopefully is going to start doing this or doing more of this than you're currently doing at the moment. So we've got to make sure those touches that we have with our customer bases, with our customers, are going to be fairly unique. They're going to be memorable moments that the customers are going to really buy into. We're not trying to sell to our customers. I'm going to repeat this. We're trying to enable our customers to have the decision criteria to be able to make a decision to want to buy from us in the first place. So if we go back to our pivot points that we talked about before, 5 pivot points. The final 5th pivot point is about alignment. It's aligning our service that we're providing to our customer base with their pain points in the first place. So when you guys are out there creating your USPs, your elevator pitches, your capability statements, your branding material, your marketing, your websites, whatever it might look like, you've got to make sure that the content that you're having on there is aligning all the time to the pain points. We map this out through a process called a capability statement, which is looking at what are your selling points, as in what are the key things that you talk about that makes you such a great brand in the first place and different from everybody else potentially. What are your proof points? What have you got that can tangibly back up and prove that that selling point really is a selling point and not a load of sales garbage? And the third part of it, which is the most important part, and you've all heard of features and benefits selling, I'm sure, in your past, is each of those selling points, backed up by each of those proof points, what is the tangible benefit or value to me as a customer, or as a potential customer? If those value points align with those customers' pain points, guess what might happen? They're more likely to engage with you and buy from you. If there is disalignment with that, if that's a word, if there isn't alignment with that, then actually they're unable to buy from you in the first place. Okay? So what I'd like you to do, and if you think of the analogy as well, for example, if I'm going in to buy a car, don't try and sell me a sports car if my pain point is space, because I've got a big family. Okay? Think about what we're trying to sell and how we're trying to be able to do that. So what I'd like you to do is think a little bit about the pain points of your customers currently. What are the issues that they have? And more importantly, let's try and prioritize based on the importance to the customer. Which of those pain points really are important to the customers? Based on that, let's look at our selling points, the current selling points that your salespeople and your team and your brand goes out there and pushes out to the marketplace. How strong are those sales points in the first place? Are they good sales points, or is it just pretty much what everybody else is saying in the marketplace? Based on that, we then need to look at your proof points. How tangible are those proof points? Can they physically, tangibly measure and back up those selling points in the first place? If you can't back up your selling points, guess what? They are no longer selling points. They get lost in the sales collateral that goes out there in the marketplace. And then finally, looking at the value points. What are the values and benefits of each of those selling points and those proof points to your customers? Do they align ultimately with what your customers' pain points are in essence? Okay? So when you're thinking about the pitching that your guys are going through, and I find it fascinating. I love walking around sales floors and recruitment organizations and just listening to some of the pitches that go on. A, they're very, very different from each other in the room. B, they're very similar to what I've heard in the recruitment floor I was at in the morning before. And C, they're nothing to do with customers whatsoever. They're all about us, how great we are, and nothing to do about what we actually do for our customers and the pain points for our customers. I highly recommend those of you who are managers or recruitment company owners, when you go back to your offices, to listen to your pitches of your guys and ask the question, actually, really, would you buy from that? Really? We still don't really necessarily do that. So the questions to ask you, are the value points that you have aligned to those pain points of the customers? Do your proof points back up your selling points? Do you have enough substantiating evidence from your existing customers to back that up and prove that, i.e. your case studies? And is that message consistent across your business from everybody in the business, whether it be a salesperson, whether it be the administrator on the front desk, whether it be your finance department and what they write at the bottom of an invoice that they send out to their customer base? Well, like I said, just one last bit of interaction, if I may. I'd like you just to turn to the person next to you again, and I'd like you to identify 3 pain points of your existing customer base. Maybe think of one particular customer. What are their particular pain points that they currently have? Then I'd like you to identify 3 selling points that you currently utilize in your business. Find 3 proof points that you use to back up those selling points, and identify how you actually articulate that through the value points. I want 3 of each, 3 pain points from a customer, and internally, what do you currently say currently? Your selling points, proof points, and those value points. 2 minutes, see what you can come up with. Thank you. I'll ask you to share that back. That stuff is pertinent to your businesses, but I would highly recommend that if you haven't really thought about it in that way, please go back to your offices, get your teams together, and have that conversation. You will be amazed about A, what you would hear, and potentially what you might find is what your guys are actually selling and taking out to the marketplace. Now, our role at the Elite Recruitment Network is, as I say, is to give recruitment organizations that competitive edge and significantly outperform the marketplace. And the way we do that is providing you guys with the nutrients to be able to really grow and exercise your potential as organizations. But also, it's to challenge your thinking a little bit as well, and maybe get you thinking in a slightly different way. I'm hoping what we've done today is just in a very short space of time, it's just got your thinking going a little bit more than potentially you would have done. So in summary, if I just sort of summarize this back, first of all, decide how many customers do you actually need, maybe as an organization, maybe as a team, maybe as an individual consultant. Once you've decided that and you've mapped them out through your A's, B's, and C's, identify what actually makes a customer valuable, and then prioritize the ones that you want to get. Go and find out who are those 24 customers right here, right now, and then go and target them properly. Okay? The third stage of that is create a channel acquisition map, and start helping your prospects to actually become customers. Take them through that journey, going through that. And then ultimately align your proposition to exactly what your customer is looking for, their real pain points and issues that they've got. I put this quote up here from Abraham Lincoln because I think it's quite pertinent to the industry. We spend a lot of time rushing around doing stuff really, really quickly, getting on with it, banging the phones, not really thinking about the strategy behind our sales process. The science of selling requires you to actually stop for a second and think about what it is that you're actually doing. And the focus is to create a process not only can you measure, but also the process that will enable your customers to be able to buy from you. Not a process that's going to push and force your customers to try and want to buy from you in the first place. Please don't sell to your customers anymore. Enable them the opportunity to actually come and be a customer in the first place. My name is James Osborne, and I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for your time.